Hi, everybody. This is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done so. And if you get anything from my work, a connect on Epiphany Mind Explosion, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of the description. And if you're interested in gem business card holders, floral, floral skulls, gem skulls, pyramids, EMF pyramids, protection pyramids, all kinds of pyramids. They're behind me, they're around me. Oil paintings, commission drawings. All that stuff could be found on my website, AllyKatzkreations211.com. Hi. Come check me out. Yes. I did a lot of yard work this morning. I have a frizz bowl up here. Trying. New book from the Curtises. The Voice of Isis. So excited. So excited. So sad to see personal survival go. This shall be interesting. So today I'm going to read the preface and the intro. It's a big book. It's a big book. So mind you, we're going to take this one slow because I think this might be their last book. And then there's other books that are written by the Christian mystics, but not them. So mind you, the preface of The Voice of Isis by the Curtises. And I need glasses, by the way. I need a lot of things, but I can't afford anything. I can't afford to eat. Can't afford to pay my bills. We'll see what happens. The path to mastery is marked by the severest self-discipline, absolute obedience, and unswerving allegiance to the chosen teacher or guru. Throughout the ages, this training has been administered most rigorously by various teachers, societies, and brotherhoods. So much so that the neophyte, once having pledged himself to any one occult school or teacher, was dominated as to what he should eat, wear, do, think, and believe, having almost no freedom of body or mind. Such training was necessary in the past and still is for some. The helpfulness of the method consisted in bringing the student to a realization of the greatness of his calling, the littleness of personal self, the emptiness of the pleasure of sense, and the bareness of physical life as compared with the fullness and glory of spiritual attainment. While the Order of the 15 recognizes that the occult law back of the outer observances required by former movements is as true today as ever, and that discipline, obedience, and faithfulness are as requisite today as of old, still being an advanced order, it must employ advanced methods for obtaining the same ends. So, first off, again, this was written a long time ago, and in the explosion of spiritualism, we notice in a lot of the secret societies, allergies. Catch my live yesterday. I was going bonkers with the coughing. We see the society still exists, but not to back then standards, even in ancient standards. things don't need to be hidden anymore because people are so brainwashed and indoctrinated that it doesn't even matter what you say, they're going to contest it anyway and say, you're crazy. So a lot of what is going to be presented, just take it with ancient understanding to hear. There are a lot of societies and brotherhoods that still exist to this day that people join and initiate in and have structure in, and that's great. But you don't need necessarily those things. Some people need discipline and tools to guide them and people to be around to get to be a source. People like myself, I'm not into the occulty kind of stuff, meaning going with a group of people and when you have an outside belief, I mean, I've walked into metaphysical places before and people just can't with me. So I love going to those stores but when they're holding classes and stuff, there's a lot of ego that I can't handle. And then when people actually like tear my veil down and they're like, oh, yeah. So we'll see what they have with the objects of the Order of 15. And we'll see what that all means. Object 1. Complete individuality through union with the higher self. I like it already. The Order of 15 is put forth to gather together those who are willing to face themselves, who are sufficiently advanced to consciously take into their own hands the responsibility for the disciplining of their lives. Those souls who are earnestly attracted to its teachings and will ultimately be drawn into its ranks are those who in former lives have passed through the severe disciplining and personal training mentioned above, hence should be ready to recognize the necessity for discipline and desire the conscious realization of the higher life, so sincerely as to be willing to make its obtainment their chief aim in life. They must give the same implicit obedience, not blind, but that which is born of perfect confidence, and of the same unswerving allegiance to their teacher as of old, this time not because of vows to an earthly teacher or brotherhood enforced by penalty, but voluntarily and gladly, with no human voice to command and no great personality to follow. For it is this case, the teacher whom they must learn to recognize and obey is their own divine Father in heaven, their higher self, who speaks to them in the sanctuary of their own hearts. The ideal put forth by this order is therefore one of constant self-mastery and obedience to the personal guidance from within, and prompted by the earnest desire for spiritual growth and the ability to help humanity to a greater realization of the Christ consciousness. The teachings of this order are entirely constructive, for if only the true is persistently put forth, the false will disappear of itself. This teaching is the acum of individualism mastery, the manifestation of the real self for the individual, and the acum of oneness for the race. Necessarily, the fundamental assumption of this teaching is the possibility of each soul coming into conscious personal touch, not only with his own Father in heaven, but also with those great souls, the masters of love and wisdom, who are the elder brothers and guardians of the race. The Order of the 15 is one of the avenues through which these great souls are working to lead their followers into personal relationship. It is a testing ground for those who have passed the test of enforced discipline, an opportunity for them to prove their ability and willingness to follow the guidance that comes from within. Naturally, many are called, but few are chosen. For only those who are, sorry, for only those are finally chosen and admitted to full membership who have proved their ability to stand firm and be trained to work unselfishly for humanity along the special lines laid down by this order through its agents. It is far more advanced step to voluntarily give love, fidelity, and obedience to a teacher because your own soul recognizes the source of the teachings, the objects of the movement, and the sacrifice necessarily made by the agents that you may receive the teachings, that to give allegiance because of any form of compulsion. Sorry, guys, I'm trying not to cough. It's becoming hard. Object 2, personal training in the philosophy of life. The personal training of each pupil is carried on partly on the inner planes and partly by correspondence with the teacher of the order through the secretary. Such correspondence is open to all who need personal help with the problem of their soul life. The answers will contain explanations of the spiritual laws which apply to the individual needs of the pupil. Definite commands will not be given, for the training is designed to foster in the individual perfect freedom of choice and to develop the strength of will necessary voluntarily to apply the law to his own problems. The letters are signed by the secretary merely as the agent of the teacher, and only if the intuition of the people can grasp the fact that the instruction given is more than the human wisdom of the agents can its real significance be appreciated. Necessarily, such letters are more or less cryptic and hence require meditation, that the light of intuition may reveal their true meaning. The method of teaching employed by the teacher of this order is one in which praise and flattery of the pupil plays little part. Rather, the teacher points out the stumbling blocks in the pupil's path to realization and tests both his intuition, his sincerity, and his humility. Only the determined and the courageous can win final victory. Interesting. Object 3, a higher standard of purity on all planes. It is comparatively easy for one who is determined to lead the Christ life to curb his grosser passions, refrain from acts of impurity and injustice, and lead what the world calls an upright life. But the requirements for entering the mysteries are far more exacting. He can safely enter the more advanced stages of occultism. He must learn to control the currents of his thoughts, as well as his words and acts. Hence, the Order of the 15 helps its pupils to gain a higher conception of purity on all planes, especially in their ideas in regard to the use of the great creative force. Object 4, the esoteric interpretation of the Bible. While many orders, societies, and organizations base their teachings upon various Eastern scriptures or medieval teachings, this order teaches that the Christian Bible contains the same spiritual teachings, the same occult philosophy found in the older scriptures. Furthermore, it is couched in terms which appeal to the Western type of mind. Once the esoteric key to its symbology and mysticism is known, this key, the Order of the 15, gives to its students, thus enabling them to apply the underlying laws of every parable, allegory, and miracle to their own spiritual growth. Object 5, training the senses to respond to vibrations from all planes. This order offers no formulas or exercises for developing psychic powers. teaching that all such faculties should evolve gradually as a natural result of normal spiritual growth. Hence, they should not be sought for or forced through special forms of concentration, sitting for development, etc. But as the soul evolves, the senses must respond to higher notes of vibration and awaken to higher states of consciousness. When this occurs, the pupil must be taught both how to protect himself from the many dangers of the psychic realm and also how to make the best use of the newly acquired powers in furthering his spiritual growth. Perhaps the earliest recognition the pupil have of the divine guidance of his Father in heaven is through symbolic dreams and visions. The teacher of the order aids the pupil in interpreting such spiritual lessons until he's sufficiently versed in the language of symbology and methods of interpretation to grasp the lessons for himself. This work is part of the personal correspondence with the teacher of this order. Object 6, preparation for the coming world teacher, the avatar. Like nearly all advanced thinkers along spiritual lines and all advanced spiritual movements of today, the Order of 15 expects a great spiritual teacher to appear on earth during the early years of this century. Hence, one of the main objects of the order is so to train its pupils that through their own intuitions, they may learn to recognize and respond to the influence of the great teacher upon the higher planes, so that when the days of the famine come, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but hearing the words of the Lord, the days when they shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, the days which precede the coming of the avatar, they shall not be deceived, but shall find and know. Only by recognition of the great teacher upon the higher planes, or by recognizing him through his teachings, can humanity hope to know him when he appears in the flesh. Don't resonate with that or hard align, but that's okay. Why I don't believe in an avatar coming down, because we've evolved. The consciousness of Christ thereof that we're obtaining, we're growing, we're merging into, it's a fractalized portion of Yeshua that's running through a lot of us, a majority of us. The expansion of consciousness is not coming through one avatar, it's coming through all of us. All of us in coming into unity and dropping the polarity of good and evil, positive, negative, because this is where we're merging into higher density and higher dimensional form. There is no polarity anymore. It's unity consciousness. It's coming together, knowing that there is polarity. It's going to continue to play out here in this matrix, which we're bound by. But on a conscious level, we don't need to feed the either or anymore. We're not in polarity. If you're thinking of it, then you're in it. If you don't think about it, you're out of it. You're not being influenced by either or. And either or can be both bad or good. It depends how you apply your neutrality to things. I don't necessarily believe the one and done is coming down to save, because it's all us as one source energy, differentiated in different forms, but we're still one. So the avatar should be coming through all of us with all distinctive different messaging, but along the lines that it's said in a different frequency. But as we're learning through others, there's a lot of false light going on around right now, and you have to learn how to align your heart. And why I think this book is very important, regardless if I agree with that statement or not, is the understanding of going within. And this is the teachings that they've been talking about in most of their books. It's just unlocking the allegory, the story, the unlocking of the methods that these ancient people used and apply it in a modern way to obtain the same ends and means, but more in our advancement. Object 7, special training in recognizing the oneness of truth wherever found. Well, we have heard much of universal brotherhood and its various methods of attainment from the reign of terror to the present day. Still, this order teaches a new conception of this much to be desired state, since the human race reflects truth like a diamond reflects light through many facets. Universal brotherhood can never be achieved by all men thinking alike, nor do we believe such an achievement desirable, for in nature we find perfect brotherhood expressed in many forms. The oak and the violet at its root receive the life force from the same soil, air, water, and sunshine, yet each developed to perfection. In the same way, the Order of 15 strives to send out the one life and permits each soul to assimilate it and grow to the perfection of his own individuality in perfect freedom. Hence, our idea of universal brotherhood is universal recognition of the oneness of truth in its various expressions. That is absolute truth and key right there. Or unity in diversity, thereby manifesting perfect tolerance, perfect wording, toward all. And as I'm saying, coming into unity, that's exactly what I'm trying to express word-wise. You're never going to get a Buddhist monk to understand the Christian. And you're never going to get a pagan to agree with, like, someone down, I don't even know, whatever religion we could choose from. Right. It's the natural understanding that we're all human. We're all having different expressions and experiences because that's how God wants to experience this world, this life through us. It's what our soul growth needs. It's what we chose. And we all chose different modalities to express source through. Good and evil. And it's coming into an understanding that we are all a part of humanity, and that doesn't exclude anybody. Just because you don't agree doesn't mean that we can find commonalities and similarities that we can all unify and work together with. And I think that's where in society right now we lack, because we're being fed still division and separation and limitation, which is the paradigm we chose for third dimension. We need to come out of that thinking because we already have moved up. And limiting yourself from the negative paradigm doesn't exactly work either, because you're in polarity. You're in duality, and neither can function without it both working. I know it's a jumble. Introduction. Quote, how often would I, did I finish that one? Yep. Sorry. How often would I gather thy children together as a hen doth gather her brood under her wings, and ye would not. End quote. St. Luke. The Egyptians recognized and adored the productive principle, both in nature and in man, under the symbol of Isis, the universal mother, the power bringing forth in humanity the divine child, or the Christ. The title of this volume indicates that its teachings are designed to bring forth in humanity a new conception of the spiritual life through the development of the mother love, the divine feminine principle of the soul, which brings forth in daily life. Isis was also called the Mother of God, the Celestial Virgin, and the Queen of Heaven, just as her counterpart, the Virgin Mary, is among Christian peoples and was usually represented carrying in her the crux anasta. I'm totally butchering that word, sorry. It was none other than Cyril, Bishop of Alexandria, who openly embraced the cause of Isis and anthropomorphized her into Mary, Mother of God. While we do not worship Isis or Mary as a personality, yet we recognize that which they symbolize. For it is only by a recognition of the mother principle of love and compassion that we can bring forth the Christ child individually in our hearts and lives and collectively in humanity. Heretofore, most teachings of religio-philosophic character have been given out as from the intellectual or father aspect of truth, and have in a measure appalled humanity by a sense of great gulfs to be crossed and the great heights to be obtained ere the Father's house is reached. But in this volume, the teachings are presented as from the lips of a loving, tender mother, taking her children into her arms, weak, sinful, and disobedient though they be, and helping them over the hard places by teaching them at her knee how, by the mastery of the little things of daily life, they shall step by step obtain to the status of the divine manhood and exemplified in the Father. This volume is composed of the monthly lessons sent out by the Order of 15, considerably elaborated and enlarged. The lessons in this volume will no longer be issued separately in pamphlet form. These teachings are presented in love and compassion with the earnest desire to sympathize with the help upward and onward the mothers struggling, sons and daughters. The Great Mother holds out her arms to all her children, be they pagan, Jew, Christian, or non-Christian, recognizing that each child must feed at its mother's breast and partake of the milk of her love and sympathy, no matter what the circumstances of his or her physical life, or what their religious training. These teachings will appeal most strongly to those whose hearts can recognize the great mother love now being poured out upon the world to prepare it for the coming of the great spiritual teacher or avatar, who is soon to appear, who will promulgate the teachings for the coming sixth sub-race and prepare a nucleus for the sixth great race. Interesting there. Well, hell, let's do chapter 1. The Voice of Isis. Chapter 1. Life's duties. Quote, whosoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. End quote. Quote, believe thou not that sitting in dark forests, in proud seclusion and apart from men, believe thou not that life on roots and plants, the thirst assuaged with the snow from the great range, believe thou not, O devotee, that this will lead thee to the goal of final liberation. End quote. The Voice of the Silence, Blavatsky, Fragment 1. Many students of the higher life find themselves surrounded by conditions which absolutely preclude their devoting themselves to study and to the observances which seem necessary for self-development. Life often seems to press so heavily upon them that both body and mind are wearied to the point of exhaustion, and both men and women are reduced to a state of beasts, a burden. Yet here, let us seek a remedy. There are two classes of duties, the real duties which must be performed and merely superfluous of life, which are what to call duties, but which we voluntarily impose upon ourselves. No real duty is given you which have not the strength to perform or without a purpose to be gained by its performance. Real duties do not exhaust you, for as they as thy days, so shall thy strength be. Instead of letting any duty arouse in your mind the thought that it can, by any possibility, separate you from the inner light, or from your spiritual development or your real advance along the path, or prevent you from drawing close and learning wisdom at the master's feet, realize that it would be impossible for you to take one step onward while you were leaving any real duty undone. But to obtain true renunciation of action without devotion through action is difficult. O thou of mighty arms, while the devotee who is engaged in the right practice of his duties approacheth the Supreme Spirit in no long time. The second class are imaginary duties or self-imposed tasks, which cater only to superfluities and are fulfilled simply to propagate the world's opinion. The first duty of each student of the higher life is to make a careful analysis and decide what are real and what are superficial duties. Then to so order his life that the real, vital, and first duty of caring for his immortal soul will not be crowded out. To do this, he must look upon duty in a new light. Many persons recognizing false light, in which duty has been presented, strive to do away with it altogether, saying that nothing should be done that is not a joyful service. While we agree with the view for a certain stage of development, still it is often necessary to require children to perform duties which later in life they find to be joyful service. All real duties confront you because in your evolution you have set up conditions which make just these tasks necessary to build into your soul certain qualities in which you are lacking. In short, they are the result of the great the law of karma. And without the lessons they teach you, your character is incomplete. Hence, they are the things which, when they are performed and the qualities they are meant to develop are incorporated into your being, will give you the strength and ability to take your next step. We hear many say that household cares or business duties occupy so much of their time that they cannot find time to enter the silence. Hence, there is no use trying to live the higher life, since the many interruptions make it impossible. Instead of taking such an attitude of mind, realize that such duties and interruptions are your task and make them yield you their lesson. Every morning, select some text or a thought and fix your mind upon it during the day, making every task, be it ever so trifling, yield something toward the main idea. If you are seeking poise, take for your daily meditation the thought of divine love. Think of this expressing itself as calmness, unchanged and unmoved by anything. If constant interruptions occur, realize that perhaps they furnish just the lesson you need, the power to remain calm interiorly in the face of outward activity. Since all real duties are your task, in these lies your opportunity, and in their proper performance lies your victory. Not in the performance merely, but in the attitude of mind you hold toward them and the manner of their performance. If you perform a duty because you are compelled to and fail to incorporate its lesson in your heart, at the next step you will find yourself confronted by another duty of the same general character, but far more difficult of performance. And this will continue until you not only perform the duty, but again, the lacking quality of soul. This duty is intended to incalculate. If business cares seem to hold you in a net of sordid money getting, learn from the lesson of persistence that just as no complication in business life can doubt you, so in your spiritual life, nothing shall prevent you from obtaining spiritual gold. Teach your subconscious mind to know and realize that only that which can be brought to the Christ for his blessings is legitimate. Learn to have faith that you shall achieve if you learn this lesson. There is one real duty which confronts all students of the higher life that cannot be ignored, to decide just what avenue of help is most beneficial, not only to their advancement, but also the one which brings the greatest amount of practical help to humanity. It is not enough to say that you can gain good from all sources. For a while, that may be true. Still, your personal development is not the first duty that confronts you, for that comes as a result of living the Christ life and trying to help humanity. While you should do the individual duties presented to you, you should also lend your forces to increase the power of the organized movements put forth by the masters of wisdom for the help of humanity. Such organized movements are like great rivers, which, although they depend upon tiny springs and streamlets for volume, yet unite these into something far different from and of far greater usefulness than the individual springs and streamlets contributing to them. Hence, your first duty is conscientiously, prayerfully, and earnestly to seek for the special channel through which you desire to help humanity. And when found, throw into the channel all you have to give, whether it be money, the easiest of all things to give, or love, devotion, thought, or service. Fear not to seek the pilgrim who would cool his weary limbs in running waters, yet dares not plunge for terror of the stream, risks to succumb from heat. Inaction based on selfish fear can bear but evil fruit. No soul can consciously advance who is not helping in the upliftment of all. If you cannot find time to enter the silence, still no power in heaven or earth can keep the silence from entering into you, if you will let it. For the silence is the peace of God that passeth understanding. While doing the duties of the day, your mind need not be chained to them. It is not what your hands are doing, but what your heart is worshiping that determines your growth. If you make business or household cares your God, you will, of necessity, retard your more rapid spiritual advance. For as long as you are worshiping a false God, your spiritual evolution is being retarded. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. If, on the contrary, you make of your duties stepping stones to real worship of your heart, you will find them a great help. Hands and mind may both be occupied, but while using them and in the very performance of the task, and because it is hampering, you must dive deep into the divine and seek in your own heart for the sustaining power and not depend upon earthly surroundings to bring it to you. Just as a tree which finds itself planted in a crevasse of a rock must send its roots deep down to seek the streams that are hidden from sight, or it can maintain its growth. Under such circumstances, the tree often attains greater perfection than one planted on the plain, for the streams that run deep are refreshing and uncontaminated and are unfailing. If you are persistent and determined in this seeking, you will gain more growth from meeting everything as it comes to you than one who can sit for hours in silence, yet who has not learned to control the children of his own brain. There is no duty higher than the one which lies nearest, provided it be a real duty. It is not a real duty to try to relieve another from doing his plain duty, for it is better to do one's own duty, even though it be devoid of excellence, than to perform another's duty well. It is better to perish in the performance of one's own duty. The duty of another is full of danger. Like the children of Israel, who had each to gather manna for himself alone and could gather only enough for one day, so is each one given strength to perform all the real duties of each day. But if this strength is wasted in assumed duties, or it is used up in doing for another that which is necessary for his development, that he do for himself, then you are depleted and your duties, like the manna gathered in excess, becomes a menace to your growth rather than a help. The object of evolution is to gain wisdom out of every condition, whatever the condition that confronts you. Know well that it will never leave you until you have gained the wisdom it is intended to teach. Everything that comes to you in the way of trouble and sorrow is simply the result of your own shortcomings or a lack of some soul quality which only such experiences can teach you. In fact, this is the underlying idea of karma, not that it is a punishment or even an inevitable law of suffering, which you must endure to the end, but that in the course of your evolution, your higher self finds that you lack certain soul qualities, hence chooses to incarnate in certain families and under certain conditions, which will bring out the soul qualities which are lacking. If you refuse to recognize a lesson or run away from the conditions, or they are conquered, you will have to meet them again and again in various forms in this and or other lives until the victory is gained. Remember that the hard conditions of the environment are deliberately chosen by the soul that it may quickly gain the qualities needed. The instant this is done, the law is fulfilled. Hence, there is no karma or anything else that can hold you to those conditions. Only thus can you find self-poise, for self-poise is the result of self-knowledge. The instant you begin to see that it is yourself who is responsible for all the disturbing influences that are around you, that's refreshing to read, and that it rests with you to correct them, then you have begun in the right way to gain self-poise. The first thing to be gained is self-recognition. When buffeted by circumstances, you are apt to blame your sufferings upon your conditions or upon others, or to think some divine power is punishing you, for it is most difficult to face yourself and recognize that the trouble lies in you. But while this is difficult to realize, still it is comforting to know that if the fault is within, the remedy also lies within. Once recognize this and really learn the lesson, not only mentally, but intuitively, and you will no longer have to experience the adverse conditions. What I just read is everything that I've been saying. You wrote in these experiences, you wrote a whole script for yourself for you teaching, learning. And things present themselves time and time again because either a greater learning needs to happen, your projection of where your path is a little wonky off. Sorry, guys, I tried pausing to cough this out so it doesn't come back, and it's here. I'm going through it too. This is not just me telling you, I'm walking through all of this myself. And it's about recognizing. And some things we don't recognize because you can battle yourself at length figuring it out. It's going and asking yourself, like, what the purpose of this is for. What is it supposed to teach me? You know, unfortunately, in our world, in this now current moment, you could work really hard and do your duties. And in the same breath, like there's a lot of things out of your control, like the prices of food and the prices of this, and you have to establish like what is worth your time and what isn't. What's worth working for and what isn't. And I know for myself, I might have to just pick up another job somewhere because nothing is making my bills. Right. So I have to figure out what is going to be able to sustain me and unfortunately not do what I want to do, because it's, how patient can one get until you're in destitute? And what direction do I need to go in? I don't know. My higher self is like, struggle, bitch. But it all serves a purpose, right? When an earthen vessel is to be used, only a certain amount of fire is needed to harden and prepare the clay. But if it is a golden vessel to be placed upon the king's table, it must pass through a 7 times heated furnace and be hammered and tested and purified. That's all what we're going through, until the gold is without a flaw. Then it must be fashioned into the shape best adapted to its purpose. So is it with the vessel of clay, which we call our personality. There must be all kinds of vessels, and each must have the preparation best adapted to its uses. All wisdom gained from earthly experience is meant to help unfold your dormant faculties and make the personality one with its Father in heaven. There is nothing that confronts you that is not a step in this great journey called the cycle of necessity. Therefore, realize that it is not your task or duties that weary you or retard your evolution, but your attitude of mind toward them, the permitting of everyday trifles to so occupy your mind that you never let them go. The little joys of life are just as satisfying as the little cares are annoying. While you are facing the little cares, watch out for the little joys. Many little joys wake the heart until, like a glorious blossom, it opens to the sun. If you dwell in the little joys, they run together and soon break out into a mighty soul satisfying happiness, which will be like a strong, deep undercurrent of joy, bearing you through all the cares and sorrows of life. Remember this and begin at once to look for every ripple of sunshine. Open the doors and let it in. In every heart, there is a well so deep and still that it can reflect only one star at a time. And this star, whatever it be, is for the time it is reflected there, the guiding star of your destiny. Just as a great telescope can sweep the heavens and focus upon any star desired, so can you have for your ruling star anything you determine to focus upon. If your star be household wearies, a desire to live in the same style as your neighbors, to expand your business, or the love and worship of money, or any other condition, even the worship of a personality, while it rains, it shuts out the light from all other stars. Ye cannot serve God and Mammon. Whatever it is that is reflected in the deep well of your innermost heart is the God you are worshiping. For worship is constant thought of the thing worshipped, a constant filling of undercurrents of your mind with it, laying upon the shrine and offering to that which you worship of your best efforts and thoughts. Sorry there. I don't know why constraint wanted to come out so heavy. Constant. Damn dyslexia. Whatever it is that occupies these deep undercurrents, whatever is poured into the deep places of your nature, even subconsciously, something that is always there, no matter how busy you may be on the surface, that it is what you are worshiping, for it is that for which you are giving your life and thought force to create. By these currents of force, you are literally molding the atoms of your bodies into vehicles through which that you can worship can manifest. You also create around yourself an auric world in which your dormant thought will be king and also subservient, no matter how much lip service is given to other things. There is only one thing that you can rightly place in the holy sanctuary and hope that it will dwell there forever, and that is the Christ. Let the Christ be king over all your thoughts, aspiration, desires, and all things shall be cared for. He who seeth in me in all things, and all things in me looseneth not his hold on me, and I forsake him not. And whosoever believing in spiritual unity worshipeth me who am in all things, dwelleth with me in whatsoever condition he may be. End quote. The little things of life may occupy the surface of your thoughts, but underneath all, in the holy sanctuary, the Christ dwelleth. And the Christ careth for all things. Your home, your children, your business, your petty cares are all but ripples on the surface, while deep down in the shrine of your heart dwells the Christ. Once having found this holy of holies, and place therein the one who alone is worthy of your worship, no matter how busy you are or how occupied your worldly cares, in an instant your consciousness can enter this secret place and find rest and peace and communion. Then nothing can really fret you, for you carry the silence within you. The winds and tempests of earth only ripple the surface. In the deep places all is peace and calm. You have no fear, for you have entered the silence and have felt the strength and comfort and power of the Christ within. You know that his love pervades your life. All are safe in his keeping. All things are safe and sure. The trials of your business and your home do not upset you now, for you know how to keep calm, where to find peace. The moment you find yourself getting disturbed, slip back into the calm, quiet interior place and find refreshment. Let the radiance of this center fill your life. The Christ is there, and no matter how the storm rages on the surface or how you rock in the little boat of your personality on the storm-tossed sea of life, still, you know that all the first call of help, you will see the Christ walking on the water and will hear the command, peace, be still. And I'm going to end it there. Chapter 2, the cycle of fulfillment. I say a lot of this stuff. This is nothing new. Said a little differently. But like I keep saying, all is for experience, wisdom, to gain knowledge. You working. There's nothing wrong with that because you're still learning, you're impeding, you're seeding your light and your stream of light and your consciousness on other people. It's important to understand the depths of what I just read. It's the very depths of what I've been projecting, and hopefully people are picking up. It's no coincidence. I'm sure I'm channeling one of them. I might have been one of these people in a past life. That would be awesome. Because the wisdom is ridiculous. Find the diamonds, as Carol Maureen Friesen would say, in the dog shit. Find it. Find the facet that you belong to. We all have to come together, and we are all one. And the separation and the limitation that we place on ourselves and the storylines and the AI and the worries and these evil people are out to kill us. If you are knowing in your own inner self, your intuition is saying to you what is going to come. Why are you worrying and feeding energy where it doesn't belong? Seeking the inner peace, the inner calm is where you need to be. Well, so let's get there, guys. So I'm so excited to read more of this book. Thank you guys for joining me today. Sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, shielding, and protective energy. Please go within. Be the physical shoulder for somebody to lean on. Be the lighthouse. Seed your truths. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching, subscribing, liking, checking out my website, seeing me on TikTok, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye for now.